Okay, so the next story, probably number 3 on the hot sheet in terms of importance, is we talked about Heartbleed probably 2 months ago, which was the SSL vulnerability in certain versions of the OpenSSL software. And I guess there's been some new findings with that, Matt?
Yep.
What's this story about?
So it's called Cupid. Luis Grangia of SysValue recently reported that he was able to make modifications to some popular software used for setting up wireless connections that also relies on the OpenSSL libraries for TLS in protecting different handshakes portions of those connections. In particular, he made modifications to WPA Supplicant, which is a client software, and I want to say Host APD, which is an access point hosting package.
Daemon, right.
Correct. And since we know already that Heartbleed was, you could use it both directions, client to server to client, basically he's showing that it's possible to do this for wireless devices as well. Heartbleed, before we knew it was, you could do it over TCP, which is the standard model. You had a web server, that all those popular, the sites that we knew were vulnerable. Here you can see that at the EAP level, which is lower down in the protocol stack, you can actually do the same kinds of attacks and steal data from memory of a client or a server, depending on what you're running. So it looks like he's released the source code to GitHub, so it's out there. As to which devices in particular are vulnerable, there's a lot of speculation, but I don't know if there's a definitive list anywhere that we could point to yet. But it's not really a surprise, in my opinion. We knew that these libraries were being used in a lot of different places, and they would continue to crop up over time as people spent the time to dig into them and figure out, is this device vulnerable? Hey, what about this one? So I think this is just another one of those. We're going to keep seeing these until the OpenSSL versions get patched pretty much across the board. That may be never, but
So the software that's behind this is still the OpenSSL versions. I can't remember what it was, like 1.0, 1B through
yes,
F or
I
something
believe
like
so.
that.
This is the same kind of memory stealing
It's just
attack.
a kind of different way to access it than we normally traditionally think of.
Right. So
Okay.
you're not actually creating the whole TLS SSL handshake that we're used to on a TCP socket.
Right.
This is lower down.
Right. Like you said, probably this is expected. I think we'll probably see other things. I think when it first was announced, the Heartbleed vulnerability, we all kind of knew where the low-hanging fruit, which was probably the large portion of web servers and email servers that use for the TLS or the secure POP or whatever it is, were going to be the prime targets. But then there's all these other little things out there that maybe we hadn't thought about, but still have OpenSSL as an underlying encryption protocol. And they're probably not as frequently thought of, but people are discovering new ways to leverage that same vulnerability against other devices and other software packages that might utilize that same OpenSSL software.
And this brings us into that space of Internet of Things again.
Right.
Where a lot of the hardware that would be running this sort of thing, like an access point, or maybe an Android phone that has the libraries and uses it to create one of those
Hotspots,
exactly.
Right. All right, so hopefully they'll get that under control, and hopefully we won't find any more. I don't know if this one's going to be highly exploitable in terms of like a rich target set, but I guess I haven't really looked at the code myself to see, how many are out there. But certainly with the web server aspect, it was a lot more easy for even the entry-level kind of hacker to kind of get into that space, where this might seem a little bit more tricky to get your feet wet. Although if they're releasing the source code, it might not be so bad. Or it might be difficult.
The key thing here is where the previous one was, was layer 5 or above of the TCP stack. This one's at layer 2. You've got to have physical proximity. You got to be close to the access point or the device to be able to do this. So it is more limited in that fashion. You can't just, like you could with the previous one, scan across the entire internet from anywhere and potentially exploit it. This one does require physical proximity.
So you'd have to do some war driving, have to get back into that kind of mode again in order to maybe discover ones that could be compromised in your area.
Another good point is that EAP is also used for the 802.1x authentication protocol, which can also be used wired. So it's not purely a wireless attack, although I think the majority of the uses that we'll see of it are people who are war driving and using it in that fashion.
Right. All right, well, thanks for bringing that one to our attention.